You're listening to the D.O.P.E Experience with Romby Bryant, Javier Collins, and Salvador Vergara. Our conversations revolve around people looking to evolve and transform into the next phase of their lives. We're here to help them navigate this journey by developing one's perspective every day.
Welcome everyone back to the D.O.P.E Experience. I am Javier Collins, and I'm joined by my esteemed co-host, Salvador Vergara and Romby Bryant. Today we have a special guest for you all today. His name is Nik Lewis, former professional athlete, played football for many years, originally from Texas, and he was an All-American in college, and he made the transition from college to the professional ranks. Played almost 15 years in the Canadian Football League with Calgary and Montreal, and he has a ton of records. He's the all-time history leader in receptions, and he's fifth all-time in yards, receiving yards. Big deal. You all are in for a treat today. I just want to touch on Nik's high points. I want to bring in Romby. Romby was actually a teammate of Nik's, so I'll let Romby talk about the dirt, but I want to make sure we get the high points first for our guests. Romby, can you share some information about Nik for us?
Yeah, well, Nik does hold some records up in the CFL. I joined Nik in 2009, Calgary Stampeders. When I got traded during halftime, and by far, 2010 was the best team I played for, and it was with Calgary. But one stat you didn't mention about Nik that I think everyone should know is Nik also played in several different weight classes when it comes to football. Nik has he was never, yeah, he was a little guy when he first got to the CFL, and by the time he left the CFL, he looked like a nose guard. So,
as y'all can see, it's gonna be flying today.
Yeah,
hey, 1,000 yards at 10 different weight classes.
1,000 yards at 10 different weight classes.
Like Roy Jones out there.
Yeah, he's pound for pound the best receiver to ever play football.
Pound for pound.
So that's what we have Nik with us. Hey man, thanks for doing the show, man. I done your show a week, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
I enjoyed it. I got a lot of feedback from some people on LinkedIn and some friends, and Sal said he loved it. Loved how authentic we were.
I appreciate it.
But
I'm gonna get all y'all on mine.
Yeah.
Originally, that's how it was supposed to be. Then Romby got.
Well, we didn't know how all this stuff would work. Well, yeah, and that's my first question was. We've been talking about transitioning, and the four of us want to work on something for the CFL, but COVID happened, and life went on. My question to you is, what are you doing to help players transition out of football?
Wait a second, Romby. Hold on. Let me. We got to talk about the topic, and I want to give Sal a chance to sort of give his story on how they met. Yeah. Let Sal touch the mic really quick.
Yeah, of course. Nik, it's good seeing you again. It's been a minute since we've seen each other. Lunch, I think, was the last time at the Star where we saw each other. But as Romby had alluded to, we've all been working on or towards a transformational in transition program, both here domestically in the U.S. and also in Canada. I met Nik through Javier and Romby. We had lunch. I got it a few months ago, actually, at the Star, and this idea of helping create a platform in which professional athletes can transition and transform themselves from an athlete into what I call, for me, because I'm not an athlete amongst this group, the civilian life. Yeah. And, each one of you guys have a really compelling story about how your journey of transitioning and transforming, I like to use the word transform, from your professional life in sports into your life today. And so I'm really excited to hear, and I've heard Romby and Nik's episode on Nik's podcast. Congratulations, by the way, Nik, on the success of that podcast. But I think it's a compelling conversation because, we talk about transitioning. For me in my industry, it's transitioning in transforming folks from one role into another career or into another role. And I think it's very applicable here, not only from an athlete perspective, but from a professional perspective. Some of the challenges that you go through and what you go through in terms of how to address those challenges and those hurdles. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Absolutely. And as you can see here, transitioning is a very common theme, especially with the athlete lifestyle and Sal being in human resources. So all of us are very familiar, but as we indicate on this show, we think of it more as a transformation.
Yeah,
that's how we frame that journey. And you obviously have gone through many transformations, and you have achieved so much in your career. So, Romby, if you don't mind, can you lead us off with some questions for our guy Nik?
Yeah. That first question, so how are you helping players, or where you currently got set up to help players transition out of the game?
So this is how, we talk about how it all started, and transitioning myself, going into what we call the real world. I've always wanted to be a coach, and I was fortunate enough to coach in Vancouver last year for the BC Lions and do that. But when I think about the transition, and I think about how hard it is and how difficult it can be, because a lot of guys, you think about it, we set up as athletes, you prepare your whole life to play pro sports, and then you can only play it for a limited time, right? But your whole life, you only set up to play pro sports. So what happens when you're done with pro sports? You didn't set up to do anything else after that. I would say 98% don't. And so, and a lot of us, we depend on other people, some of the people that we meet along the way, to use our money or to use our fame to try to help us set up everything else. But it's their way, the way they want to do it. And it's really their ideas. Like, if I had the money to do this, I could do this. But they make it sound good. And a lot of guys lose money like that. And so the biggest thing for me is the education, and not only just the education, but also the partnering. Listening to Will Smith and Martin Lawrence talk about when Will talked about how he partnered with Jazzy Jeff, and then he partnered with Alfonso Ribeiro, and then he partnered with Martin Lawrence. And if you look at his life, everything else surround those three people, right? Jazzy Jeff was his whole music. His TV show was with Alfonso, and all the movies he's done, you think of Bad Boys First, was with Martin Lawrence, right? So his partnering has created everything else. So not being afraid to partner with others that are like-minded, that want to go in the same direction, and just be in a situation where we can help each other. On the House Party app, I've been talking to a guy, James Cotton. I don't know if anybody knows him. He used to play in the CFL. I think his last year was 2005 or 6. We never played on the same team, but I was fortunate enough to meet him the other day, and he went to Ohio State. And what he does now is helps Ohio State athletes transition with the help of the university. So just being there and seeing that there is a great opportunity for us to help not only pro athletes, but college athletes in that transition into the real world. Even if you can still go pro, you need to learn how to set up your life, not set up your opportunity of playing pro sports. And I think that's the biggest mind change, or the mindset that we have to create. And if you look at it, 99% of college athletes, the height of their fame is in college, right? Because only 1% of those guys are going to go on to the NFL and play 14 years, right. 15 years. So most of them they're at a higher pedestal in college than they'll ever get to in the NFL, right? So this is the height of what they are doing. And that's when it's time to monetize. That's when it's time to set up the rest of your life. It's through that, not through your professional athlete portal, because you're surrounded by people that might be more popular than you, right? Tim Tebow was more popular at Florida than he was in the NFL. You know, so when we get these guys on these levels, to teach them how to monetize their platform and teach them how to set up the rest of their life, they're not depending on someone else to do it, right? They're depending on themselves to get the knowledge, to learn what they want, and to move forward.
In having, real quickly, just to tie in with that, in having conversations with each three of you that I've had the opportunity to do, why do you feel organizations, i.e. NFL teams, aren't creating programs like legitimate, strategic, well thought out programs to address this? I mean, it kind of baffles me that this seems to be a theme that not everyone, but most by and large do have challenges of transitioning or transforming to civilian life. Why do you feel like professional sports in general, not necessarily NFL, why is there such a hesitance or reluctance to create programs that really help nurture and cultivate someone, you know, right when they're a rookie throughout their career, so that when they can hit the ground running, so to speak? Why isn't that happening?
That's not their job. It's just like a high school coach's job is to win games, is not to get you a scholarship. Just like if you own a McDonald's, just because you have the brand name McDonald's doesn't mean anything, right? McDonald's just gives you the name. It's up to you to make it work. So when you understand it, you're a commodity. And that's all you are. You can't assume that these people care about you. They only care what you can do for them. And that's why you have to understand the business of sports, right? And once you understand the business of sports and you understand what they're required to do, you have to utilize every option you have. That's your teammates. That's some of your coaches, and that's some of the people you're going to meet along the way. And that's where the platform comes in. But these organizations, they're not successful because of people after. It's like, you know, you go to college, like, what is your graduation rate? You can't go to the NFL and say, what is your rate of success of players after they leave the NFL? They don't care. That's not a stat they care about, because you're only there as long as you can benefit, or they can benefit off of you. So you just have to understand what the mindset is, and you have to understand that it's a business. But a lot of people that come from inner cities that never had money, they don't teach finance in school, right? They don't teach you anything. I remember the only thing I learned about money in school was how to write a check, and I've never wrote a check in my life, right? So, you know, and that's one of the biggest things. It's like,
you all cash?
All cash, hey, card. But you know, that's one of the biggest things. They don't teach you those things. So when you go pro and you get this money, you don't have things in place. You don't know how to start your own company. You don't know how to start a charity and put money in a charity. You don't know how to tax breaks. You don't know all these other different things. And you know, the guys can talk about it on here, but you don't ever believe that you're going to get cut, right? You always believe that you're playing for your next contract and it's going to be there. Other people get cut, but it's like, you know, it's not like losing your job at a bank where you can go to another bank and get a job. Like, you can send your resume anywhere you want. They don't care. So you just got to understand that you're a commodity. But the platform that you have to be able to utilize it. And that's why I feel like we could be very helpful to educate these players in understanding how to utilize that platform and monetize it.
I was once told a long time ago that preparation for transitioning or transforming out of the NFL begins like day one when you get there, right? Would you agree with that?
That's it, 100%.
With that on the pro level? Okay. Yeah. How would you characterize that with regard to to the college level, right? At some point, those seniors are going to graduate out and they're going to go pro in something, whether it's sport or whether it's non-sport, right? They're going to go somewhere. How would you describe the best time or place to begin that transformation to leave the college level?
I just think it's about how the world works. I think it's upward of over 30 or 40% of people that get their degree go into jobs that that's not in their degree field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sal, you probably know this better because you help people transition, and a lot of guys and girls get degrees, and then they end up leaving that field completely.
Yep.
Due to some kind of circumstance of not getting a job or not being able to find a job or not been enough money or whatever the cases may be. So just understanding how the world works, understanding how all these factors play into what you're trying to do. I believe in personal branding. I believe you have a lot of people now that's older, especially that will go out and work harder to build someone else's dreams than they will on working on building their own dreams. They've been put in this mindset of get out of college or go to college, get in debt, go work it for somebody else, build their dreams, and find a way to be happy with that, and then die one day. Right? That's it. But that's how we've been taught. And anybody that tells you different, they're like, oh, you're crazy. Or, why don't you go get that? That's security. And security just got taken from everybody with COVID. Right? I call working for yourself is freedom. Working for others is security. They pay you what they want to pay you, what they think you're worth for the job they want to give you. That's security. You're going to get a paycheck every week. But freedom is when you work for yourself or partner with others and build something and get paid what it's worth, right? What you build is worth. And that's what it truly has to be. And for a lot of these athletes, learning that takes a lot. Like I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I know now when I was coming out of college. I might be homeless right now if I didn't play in the CFL for 14 years, right? Because I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the education, I didn't have the tools needed to be successful in life outside of sports.
Nik, do you feel, given the and you mentioned understanding the business of it, and do you feel that there's a pivot point for some teams to realize that they can impact the lives of you guys, beyond football? Or is there an appetite for what the four of us have been talking about, programs to help transform and transition players? Is there an appetite?
What's in it for them? What's in it for them? There's nothing in it for them, right? They see you
dropping the feeling of helping maybe it's just naivety on my part since I'm not part of that world and I understand the business aspect of it, but I would think that there's someone out there, again, I could be naive, that thinks that, man, we've done these young men wrong, if you will, or haven't led them. It's such a great opportunity to impact the life beyond football. And it surprises me that there isn't one person out there that seems to think that beyond the four of us, and the other folks that actually do those programs. But I'm talking about within a team, within a professional sports team.
I don't think these are bad people. I think they're good people. I think that a lot of people with money, if you've been around people with a lot of money, they tend to believe everyone has the same opportunities and same chances to gain what they have. So as long as they believe that, you've had this platform. They've given you the platform. They've given you the opportunity. It's up to you to create the rest of your life with that opportunity, right? They're not going to get anything out of helping former players. Now, I do know owners that have been very close with ex-players, that have helped ex-players through helping them with events, helping them being a part of things, introducing them to people and things like that. But that's just all to who you are. That was the character that you showed while you were on that team, and that's a bond that you made with that person. And I think that goes beyond him being an owner of a team or somebody in a higher level of a team organization. It's not really just it's going to be different player by player, right? Javier, you probably speak on this, and Romby, you've seen guys, and I know guys like with Jerry Jones. I know a couple guys that talk to Jerry on a regular. They used to play for the Cowboys, right? So, and they say, man, Jerry helps me with a lot of stuff, right? But everybody can't say that. And then how beneficial will it be for Jerry Jones to help everyone?
Well, I think part of that is and I agree. I think, Jerry Jones is one of the more personable individuals out there who's on that level of ownership in the NFL. But I think a lot of that has to do with the individual players and their drive and their initiative to want to create something like that for themselves.
Exactly.
And want to, exercise some, vulnerability perhaps and approach Jerry Jones with those types of conversations. Not everybody achieves that level of, internal feeling, right?
Yeah.
Can work up the mustard to even have those types of conversations, which I think is a big step. One of the things that I'm curious in your take on is so I really love this. I really love this subject. I think it goes beyond athletics. I think transitioning and transformation can be applied to all areas of life and society. So I do believe that with the emergence of social media these last 10, 11 years and how it has solidified itself, it really has flattened the curve or lowered the boundaries is, I guess, a better analogy. It really has lowered a lot of boundaries and barriers of access that people did not have before it happened.
Yep.
So with that being said, how do you see these challenges? So if there's a low barrier to entry, it's the accessibility has been widened. Why do you think there's still these challenges of individuals not taking advantage of or not being able to take advantage of their platform or not being able to leverage what they had done to spring forward themselves ahead to the next juncture in life?
Well, one of the things is partnering, like I talked about earlier. I think that for me, one thing that I've noticed is the whole partnering system, right? A lot of players go off to do things individually, right? We've been a part of a team our whole life.
Yeah,
I know how to be a great teammate, right?
Yeah.
I know how to be a great teammate. I know Romby's strengths, right? So if we partner, I know how we can both benefit off of this partnership, right? You build together. Use your teamwork mentality for the rest of your life. And that's what I'm trying to do now is build something to allow people to partner and understand this concept of being able to, you don't have to be on your own, right? Everybody enters the world and they think they have to be on their own. And they think they have to build something on their own or go work for somebody else or go do something. It's a very humbling experience to go work a regular job after you played in the NFL or the CFL or whatever the case is, and be a part of those circles and do things. But I truly believe that by partnering together and building something that's going to allow people to stay where they're comfortable, I don't have to be an extrovert to be on social media, right? And then I think a lot of players don't know how to use social media properly, right?
Okay.
I'm finding out more and more that I didn't even know anything about social media until I started launching this media company and doing other things, right? To actually use it the proper way. Most people think social media is just about voicing your opinion. Oh, I get to voice my opinion. That's how I used to think. But now seeing how you can use it to brand and market and do all these other things and build, that's where the knowledge comes in. It's not just about you going on saying what you don't like or what you do like, or this movie's cool or that play sucked or this play, that's where but that's majority of the feedback and the majority of the statements that are made on Twitter and things like that. And if you look at Instagram, if you look at my Instagram pre-podcast, it's a bunch of senseless pictures. I don't really post pictures anymore. Everything's about the podcast or about the clothing line or about this and that. So you see the difference of me now using that portal for branding and not for what Nik likes, because it doesn't matter what I like. It matters what you like as the people, because that's who I'm marketing branding to.
Yes. Why don't you go ahead and drop that the IG on us?
Nikel 18. Yeah. Nike Lou.
Tell us more about that broadcast company that you're trying to do.
Also, yeah, I want to launch a media company. Can't talk too much about it, but you know, it's along those lines of partnering, building one platform for every North American sport, empowering athletes to be able to create and own their own content. Right? You don't need ESPN, Fox Sports, TSN, or Sportsnet. They get millions of dollars and they pay you pennies on it. I really want to make a difference and really want to, empower these guys. So I've had some great feedback on it, and it's going to be something that I feel that it could be very big if it's done properly. And so that's what I've been working on, and I'm really passionate about helping other people. Right, that's how we leave a legacy is really helping other people, and that's what I want to do.
Nik, what was your biggest, if you think back, what was your biggest challenge or challenges transitioning and transforming from a football player to civilian life?
It got hard because when I got out of the game, I tried to retire for 5 months. They wouldn't let me retire. They kept asking me to play, and then I tell them I didn't want to play. And then they wouldn't release me because they thought I was going to go play for another team. And all this stuff is going back and forth. I'm like, dude, I have no desire to play anymore. I ended up retiring a week before training camp. So I was so late, couldn't even get into coaching. I guess coach for Sask for, I think it was 8 days. And then my mom got pancreatic cancer, stage 2 pancreatic cancer. So then a lot of my time was spent coming back and forth Texas to Canada, spending time with my mother, helping her through that journey. She's now cancer-free. It's in remission. And so then I got into coaching, and I went and coached for a year. And then last year, through the course of coaching, just seeing what's wrong with so many things. And I enjoy coaching. I train kids, and I really love the aspect of training kids. And so just seeing that whole process. And then, in December of this year, or really in like October, I just made the choice, like near the end of the season, like, you know what? I need to affect more people. Like sitting here affecting my teammate or these players on the team, I can affect so many more people. And then that's when I reached out to Romby and we talked, and then we talked in December. And I think that really set me on the new path is being able to have these conversations and build these bridges and understanding. You can really create now, like you said, with social media, you can really create and build. It's a long process. It's hard to build a base. A lot of my people now, you can tell, like I put a CFL athlete on there, NFL athlete, lots of views instantly. If I put on a motivational speaker, it gradually grows, right? Because my base are people that only want sports. They don't look at me wanting anything else. You know how they say, tell LeBron, shut up and dribble. Well, it's really most of the people that follow LeBron only want to hear about LeBron basketball. They don't care about LeBron politics or anything else.
You can change that narrative though, right?
Oh, of course. And that's what I'm trying to do. But, but that's what I'm saying about the partnering and how hard it is I can't just put on a bunch of people in a row that aren't athletes, because then I can't grow my brand.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I mix them in there periodically throughout there, then more and more people will start to gravitate back, listen to it, and get more of it. I personally feel like the athletes are great, But some of those other conversations, I mean, I had a doctor on, you know, I've had a CEO of a company, a vice president of a company. I've had, you know, a leadership strategist that was on last week. I mean, there's a lot of great information there for a lot of people. And that's what I want people to get out of it. And that's why I do it. But it's just a hard build because I'm transferring my base over now, if that makes sense. I'm trying to change my base to people that are about Nik Lewis and not about Nik Lewis, the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't just get rid of this group until I completely transfer them over and then bring some of those over. Because right now, that group, I gotta feed that group because they're the one feeding me, right? I can't just let them go.
Absolutely. So, here's a question. So, knowing what you know now, right, all the experience and all of the things you've done, how would you handle in the moment back then when you were hit with that moment of transformation onto something else? How would you handle that differently, just based on the things that you could control that were in your power?
You know, I think it's just all the mindset of what you see, right? I kind of went through my transition. I was done with football. So I've never been depressed on not playing football anymore. You know, a lot of players, like 95% of players still feel like they can play or still feel like they want to play when they're done. So then they go through that also. I was completely done. I was like, man, I'm done enough. I had no motivation after I got first all time. And so it was just more the mindset of really going out and building what I wanted to build. And I mean, if I could take it back earlier in my career, I would have used social media to build my brand and not just be vocal, right? I would have built a brand that I would have stepped out into. I would have guest coached at TCU because I lived 15 minutes away from there and I knew the DB coach there, right? I would have guest coached there every spring for spring ball to get coaching experience. I mean, that's what I've always wanted to do. But I was just in the mindset of, oh, I'll be a coach after I'm done. I'll be a coach after I'm done. But how much better could I have been if I'd have guest coached at TCU for 8 years? Right? How many more bridges would I have built? How many more relationships would I have built just in that community? You know what I'm saying? So those are the different aspects that I think back to, like, man, I could have done a lot more when I played to build those bridges. I mean, I did a lot of charity events and I met a lot of great people. I hang out with a lot of great people now. But, you know, the more people that you know, the little bit easier it becomes, right?
Yeah.
And that supports you.
Yeah, and it's like I always like to tell people, you have a bigger brand while you're playing than you do the minute you're done playing, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably easier to build those relationships while you're a football player because you have more clout. And that's why I realized when I retired, people couldn't care less about me as a former player. They care more about me as a player.
Yeah.
And what you just said was you should have been doing stuff. You should have been prototyping during the off season.
Yeah.
While you were playing, because you can build that brand. And we just did a show on networking. So basically being intentional about your networking.
Yep. And can I ask you a question, Romby?
Yeah, what's up?
So on my podcast, you said when you played, you were an introvert, but now you're an extrovert.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that transition and how that happened? Because I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, I think I always been an extrovert. Like I guess I was on the cusp. And when I played football, I still don't want to be in the limelight. Like, because I don't like people asking me a ton of questions about football. So I think I just answered the questions because of where I was at that my time of life or whatever. But when I got done playing football, I was forced to get out there and get it on my own. And I quickly realized, like I said, when I got done playing football, I'll go to networking events and I try to be in the background. I realized that nothing was ever happening. I wasn't getting any business. I own my own farmer's agency. I wasn't getting any business. I wasn't building any relationships. So then I was like, man, I have to get out here and get it. And then once I started doing it in being more extrovert, being more proactive, and being more intentional about things, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So like I said, my situation forced me to be an extrovert because I was that guy that had to work when I got done playing football. I was in a business of I sold insurance. So you have to talk to people. Any type of salesperson, you have to talk to people. And you can't sit back in a corner and expect people to come talk to you because you was an ex-football player.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think there's a lot of people like that, though, right?
Yeah. There is a lot of people out there like that because I see them out there and they're networking or whatever, and they just kind of they don't get out there and they don't say anything. They just expect, but we're not taught to network. Like I didn't know networking was an actual thing until I got done playing football. I didn't know it was an actual thing. Like what networking, like what you go talk to people and get their information just to have a conversation. No. No. And because we didn't have to do that. When we go to parties, when we went to networking events or charity events, they announced us when we got there.
It was like a get together.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. They announced us when we got there, and people came to you to talk to you about what they're doing and ask you football questions. And it's the total opposite in these chamber events or whatever the case may be. So like I said, my situation forced me to get out there. And once I realized it wasn't that bad and I actually liked it, it was just kind of like, practice. What they say, repetition is the mother of skill. Practice make permanent. I realized that I started getting better and better and better when I went to these networking events. And I even realized that I want to become a public speaker. I got in Toastmasters, but most guys are not like the three of us.
Yeah.
They're not going to be proactive about things. They expect it to come to them. And we're kind of different. Like, from what I did.
But like you said, it's a skill, right? And if we can teach that skill along with finance, along with understanding how to build a brand and understanding how to maneuver through life. Life is a skill. It takes skill set to get through life. But you can teach these things. And there's so many players that just like that. They don't do interviews. Yeah. Javier, as an offensive lineman, you don't get a lot of opportunities to do interviews and to really get your name out there as an athlete. Besides the people that know you and what you do on the field, it speaks for itself, right? Quarterbacks make money, but they get most of the fame. Your top DB, your top receiver, running backs, right? So when you're in the trenches, or you're a D tackle, you're an O lineman, like what is your voice heard?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And to Romby's point on that, it's when we're in that environment, we develop a shell. We develop this introversion shell. We don't have to step too far out of our discomfort zone, or our comfort zone, I should say. We stay around athletes. We stay around our teammates. We stay close to the locker room. We stay close to the stadium or the facility. We're just not trained to venture too far out. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to find a voice, right? I had to really go inside and rediscover what my voice was, right? I had to do some of that kind of work and retool some things and figure out, okay, if I had a voice, what would that voice sound like? And start with that, and then it's just building blocks from there. But to Romby's point, it's all about that proactivity. It's all about right foot after left and going out there and doing instead of just thinking about it.
Yep.
So Nick, we like to do this rapid fire questions where we ask you 5 questions, you have to answer them. But I want to end on something I wish I would have done. And my mentor actually told me he'd done this when he was a rookie with the Redskins. but was to make friends outside of the locker room. And the same thing in corporate America, to make friends outside of, I guess, the organization you work for, the corporation that you work for. And Javier kind of touched on that. Us as football players, we don't make friends outside of the locker room. Some of us, with some teams, I didn't have friends outside of the receiving corps.
Yeah.
On the team. So we kind of get put in that shell. So does that tie to corporate America too, Sal?
No, definitely. I mean, we talked about it with the relationshiping/networking. One message that I always convey to folks that attend my sessions is never stop networking when you find a job, one, and then two, network outside of your own industry. So like you said, outside of the receiving corps or outside of your team, it's critical to develop that kind of well-rounded, comprehensive network that you could fall back on. So everything's applicable. And I think most definitely the element of creating relationships, as Seth talked about it in our last show, of relationship-ing and being authentic and being, I know that's a trite word that's used, but being genuine, and people can feel that. Romby, you'd mentioned in the last episode where a lot of the interactions that you guys have because of your status as former football players is transactional. What can these guys do for me? And I think people need to be aware of that to make sure that they are looking at you as individuals, as professionals that you can both help each other. That it has to be bi-directional and reciprocated, in the relationship. So, yeah, most definitely, it's very applicable to the corporate world.
Yeah, but Nick, I feel like you've done a good job making friends outside of the locker room. You're well known in the community at Calgary.
Well, I hang with a lot of CEOs and stuff, though. A lot of CEOs in Calgary and things like that. Because I understood. I didn't understand branding, but I understood that the more higher profile friends I had, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, let's get to these questions. So, 5 questions you have to answer them. Summers in Texas or winters in Canada?
Winter in Canada.
Winter in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can when it's so hot outside, there's nothing you can do. You can get naked, but you're still gonna be hot. When it's cold, you can warm up.
Just get burned up.
For the cold. It gets too hot, man. What can you do?
You can't do nothing.
Sweat. Yeah. Beaches or ski slopes? Slopes.
Beaches.
Beaches? Okay. Barbecue or poutine?
Barbecue.
Barbecue.
I don't need no poutine.
In Oklahoma, right? Because Texas doesn't make great barbecue, but that's another thing.
I think it goes Texas, St. Louis, Pennsylvania, then Oklahoma.
Pennsylvania.
You like that? I threw Pennsylvania in there.
That's rough, man.
Trucks or sports cars?
What is that?
Trucks or sports cars?
Sports cars.
Okay. Des Bryant, catch or no catch?
Catch, 100%. He changed hands with the ball and took 2 steps.
Amen.
And reaching the ball out is an athletic move.
People
can't even catch. You know how many people that can't even catch the ball to catch it, switch it, reach it out? That's an athletic move. And
go ahead.
100% catch. 100% catch. 100%. That's like Pennsylvania barbecue before Oklahoma barbecue.
Well, Nick, hey, we end the show. We give our dope recommendation, and so what we like to do is provide, obviously, the conversation, the context that we have during our shows to provide another perspective. But we always feel like caring is sharing, or sharing is caring, and so we'd like to share either a book or a quote or a movie that has inspired you, that you feel like that if someone like us or one of the audience members, if they saw or heard it, it would resonate with us. So, Romby, if you can kick off what your recommendation for today, that'd be great.
So I'm gonna do a quote, and it's actually a rap lyric because this is my mindset when I was playing football, then when I had to transition out. But Kendrick Lamar said in one of his songs, I used to think it was me versus the world until I realized it was me versus me. And that's our mindset in football, right? It's us against them, and we're trying to beat that person out. And it's the team against me. And I realized that it's me against me. And I had to get out of my own head when I transitioned out of football. And I think a lot of guys have to get out of their own head when they transition and kill that narrative that we've been taught our whole life.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Mr. Collins.
Man, that was a good one. Making me want to come up with a quote. I got a book ready, but I almost want to give a quote. That's what's talking to me. I'll do the quote. So here's a good one. It's one that comes to mind. It's really speaking to me today, and it is the only battle that is worth fighting is the battle for awareness. And I think that's a very relevant saying and very relevant concept to us in this conversation here, and even to individuals who are going through their own transformation and redefining themselves and figuring out where their voice is and how to use that voice. Awareness is key.
I like that. Mine, I'm going to do a quote as well. Confidence is not a trait, it's a habit. And so I think you have to be intentional being confident. It's hard work for a lot of people. I think that there is a fine line between confidence and arrogance that a lot of folks have to deal with. But I think that's something that you have to proactively, assertively work towards, is being confident and how you convey yourself, but do it with respect and empathy. What about you, Nick?
Yeah. Well, just speak on that. Like, I think confidence is genuine. If it's not genuine, then it's arrogance. Right.
Yeah.
But one thing I've been saying a lot since I've been done and to a lot of athletes is we don't compete against each other anymore. We can only support each other now. Right. So we have to get out of the mindset of competing. And that goes what Romby was saying, is we have to get out of the mindset of competing against each other. There's enough money, there's enough people, there's enough success to be had, and we can only support each other in that venture. So we don't have to compete with each other for the same space, because we can all be in there, right? And so that's what I've been telling myself. And a book that I'm reading right now is called The Winner Effect. I don't know if anybody's read it or heard of it. It is an amazing book. Yeah, it's an amazing book.
Yeah,
I had a book, but I couldn't find it because I like to show my books. But I was gonna give a book in a quote, but that's where I got. It's actually it's a book that helped. It has a plan that help people that's transitioning or that's looking to get into a different field, and that's where I got that term prototyping from. And I truly believe that's what people should do. I'm gonna have to. I'll do that for the next show.
Can't see it.
Yeah.
Try to show it to you.
Oh, you had it ready for you.
Yeah.
All right,
mine on Kindle.
All right, fellas. I'm gonna wrap it up for us, man. It's been an awesome experience. This is the Dope Experience. I want to thank you to our viewers and our listeners for sharing their time with us. I want to thank our awesome guest, Mr. Nik Lewis, for coming and dropping some jewels on us and just engaging in some very delightful conversation. I want to give a big shout out to my awesome co-hosts, Romby Bryant and Salvador Vergara. I am Javier Collins, and this is the Dope Experience. See y'all next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Dope Experience. Our hope is that you're left with a new perspective to formulate a blueprint of growth and transformation. Make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify or wherever you consume podcasts. Stay dope.